Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Greg Gonzalez. My goal for the podcast is to help you live a better life in retirement by giving you the tools and information you need in a language that you can understand. This podcast is a weekly podcast. This is actually episode number 55. So if I can count my weeks correctly, we are in our second year of the podcast. We've had a lot of fun so far. If you're new to the podcast, I am a financial advisor in St. Louis, Missouri, with clients in about 20 different states so far. So throughout the week and even on weekends, I'm speaking with people who are wanting to plan for a successful retirement where they don't have the financial worries because they have a plan in place and they enjoy working with a financial advisor who cares about their success. So I created this podcast, the Retirement Made Easy podcast, to share a lot of the information and a lot of the discussions that I'm talking through with the baby boomer population as they plan for the next 30 years of their life and all the decisions they're making to help secure those years. So on today's topic or today's discussion, I wanted to bring up the fact that the baby boomers right now, and we're talking about a huge segment of the population, are trying to plan for the next 30 years of their life, but they have a lot of unique challenges that they face, and they're all facing it together. So we're going to talk about those struggles, those challenges that you might be going through yourself, and maybe some of the strategies that you might consider implementing into your own retirement plan. Because if you're that 62-year-old baby boomer out there that is on the doorstep of retirement and you have these different issues you're facing, well, chances are there's another 62-year-old out there that's going through the same issues. So hopefully we can learn from this discussion and talk about what we're going through and maybe try to overcome some of those challenges. So many people are asking me, is now a bad time to retire? We're hitting all-time market highs. We're just coming out of a terrible pandemic. Interest rates are at record lows. What do you think? So we're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast. But before we do, I want to remind listeners to check out my website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. That's retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. At the bottom of the website, you can submit your questions. We're doing something new. For those that submit their questions, I get back with you within 24 to 48 hours and help you any way I can. And then we also send you a Yeti tumbler. And of course, it's going to have our logo on it, but it's really nice. It's just a free gift as a thank you for checking out our website and submitting your questions. While you're on our website, you can check out previous episodes of the podcast. Again, this is episode number 55. So there's 54 other episodes that you can listen to. You can also download some of our free resources, such as my retirement secret sauce. If you're 5 years from retirement, that's something that is a must read. There's also our retirement budgeting tool to help you determine how much you spend every month so you have an idea going into retirement where your money's going and how much you're going to need. We also have our 2021 tax planning guide, which is free. You can download it right there on the website. And last but not least, we have our couple's guide to a dream retirement. That is our most popular piece, and that will help you from the life planning, the fulfillment that everybody's looking for in retirement. I promise you, if you're a couple, or maybe you're the husband or the wife, half of the couple, you'll want to download that guide, fill that out with your spouse, and I promise you that guide is better than thousands of dollars of going to a life coach. It's right there on our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. All right, let's jump into today's episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast. Is now a good time to retire? If you're that baby boomer out there, I've been getting that question over and over lately. It just seems like so many people are pretty fearful, actually, based on where we're at right now. So let's kind of talk about it. So we have 70 to 75 million baby boomers out there born between 1946 and 1964. And I know there's going to be someone that's going to email me and say, well, how do you know why are you giving that range of 70 to 75? Well, there were 76 million births between 1946 and 1964. We do know that. I don't know how many deaths. I don't have the statistics, and I don't know how many immigrants, people that came into this country. So I'm just kind of ballparking here, 70 to 75 million baby boomers. And many of these baby boomers have already retired. The oldest baby boomer will be turning 75 this year. The youngest baby boomer will be turning 57 this year in 2021. So let's first talk about or mention the different things going on and why people are so concerned about retiring this year and why people might be concerned. Number one, you've got market highs. The stock market is hitting all-time market highs. So that has people concerned. We haven't really had a big market correction, a big market crash, where at the end of the year, the market was down significantly, over 20%. So I know COVID, through the pandemic, the market really shot down in a matter of 2 months. Yes, the market was temporarily down. But quite frankly, by the end of the year, it had made it all back. In fact, it only took about 2 months, about 59 days to recover those losses. So I'm just talking about calendar year returns. We haven't had a year where at December 31st, the market, the stock market, like the S&P 500 or Dow Jones, was down more than 20% since 2008. Right now, you're seeing all these news alerts and announcements. The Dow Jones or the S&P 500 is hitting all-time market highs. So that has people pretty cautious. Many people are thinking that trees don't grow to the sky, and a market like this just can't keep going. There has to be some kind of pullback. Aside from that, we're just coming out of a pandemic. This country is at a supply chain shortage right now. I've talked about this on previous podcasts. And interest rates are at record lows. So the interest you're going to find at your local bank or credit union is going to be pathetically low. New issued government bonds or corporate bonds are going to have very little interest or coupons. So the money we have at the bank is not really working very hard for us. And then meanwhile, inflation seems to go higher and higher. Inflation meaning the cost of living. Like if you've gone to a grocery store lately, you know what I'm talking about. And then on top of this, just picture that baby boomer out there, that 60-year-old or 65-year-old. They are called what people refer to as the sandwich generation. There's a lot of people in their 60s that are helping care for that elderly parent, that maybe their health is kind of declining. So a lot of their time is spent helping care for their mom or dad. My own mother is a baby boomer, and she spent the first few years of her retirement helping care for her parents, whether it was helping them out at the house or taking them to doctor's appointments or what have you. And many people with COVID last year had adult children, maybe in their 20s or 30s, moving back in with them. So they're not only helping with mom and dad, but their adult children they're helping with as well, because maybe they're living in the basement and they may be working from home, working from the basement, who knows? Or maybe, and this is according to Experian.com. There was an article earlier this year that said we have $1.57 trillion of student loan debt, and that balance keeps growing and growing. That amounts to an average student loan balance of $38,792. So if you have adult children in their 20s or 30s, maybe you're helping them pay off student loan debt that they might be carrying with them the rest of their lives if they don't get serious about paying that off. Maybe you're that parent that has Parent Plus loans that you're also paying on. And your parents, they didn't have those Parent Plus loans. The baby boomer generation is the first generation to really have these student loans that they're helping their kids with. And then even some of them have these Parent Plus loans that they're still paying off. On top of that, many baby boomers are looking at part of their retirement income that they're going to use to live on for the next 30 years or more, such as their Social Security, which is in jeopardy at this point. And I have had many clients bring this up. It's right on Social Security's website. If no changes are made to Social Security between now and 2035, at that point in 2035, there will only be enough money coming into the system to pay 75% of the benefits. So if your benefit was $1,000 a month, Well, it was supposed to be $1,000 a month. Well, really at that point, you could count on $750 a month. So there need to be some significant changes to Social Security so the baby boomer generation can count on that income that they so desperately need. Another concern that people have is maybe they have an old pension or a current pension with their current employer. And a lot of people are concerned about those pension funds drying up and the risk of those pensions being reduced in the future. You are seeing more and more pension defaults and pensions coming out saying that, hey, we're underfunded. This can't go on forever. And the other concern that so many people have as far as retirement is concerned is if they're not yet 65 and eligible for Medicare, health insurance, and what that's going to cost and what the coverage is going to be like, that's a huge concern for people until they get to that magical age of 65. And the economy right now is kind of scaring some people. Gas prices are at a 7-year high, according to AAA. They had a report that came out in June of this year. We haven't seen gas prices this high since 2014. In fact, in June of 2021, this year, the national average price of a gallon of gas was $3.13. In 2014, it was actually $3.70. And for those that remember, in the summer of 2008, we hit a record highest ever national average for a gallon of gas was $4.11. I will never forget 2008 and filling up for over $4 a gallon. It was nuts. So with all this being said, for all the baby boomers out there that are on the doorstep of retirement, or maybe they're down the block and they're close, right? Within a couple of years, what can you do to kind of move the needle in your direction and increase the probability of success in retirement? Well, number one, it's worth mentioning that we are still in a very, very low tax environment right now, income tax environment, and there has been talk and proposals of taxes going up in the future. But we are taxed based on the rules, the tax code of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. So guess what? Until Congress votes to change that, we're still under the old rules. So there's a lot of different strategies that you should be doing or talking about with your financial planner, maybe your tax advisor, to help take advantage of those tax strategies. Maybe it's Roth conversions. Maybe it's opening up or contributing more to an HSA that you have, and that will help you not only save on taxes this year, but also plan for the healthcare expenses in the future. Maybe between 63 and 65, you can utilize that HSA. Maybe it's opening up a 529 plan if your state has a state income tax deduction that you can take advantage of, and helping your kids, and by kids I mean adult children, with their student loans. With the Secure Act, you can now use up to $10,000 in a 529 plan and use that money to pay off up to $10,000 of student loans. How cool is that? So to give you an example, a real life example, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. So I have clients who are contributing to a 529 plan. Let's say I have a couple that wants to contribute to a $10,000 to a 529 plan for their son, Blake. And Blake has $10,000 of student loans. So guess what? Mom and dad contribute the $10,000 to the 529 plan. They can deduct the $10,000 529 plan contribution on their state income taxes, and then their son, Blake, can use the $10,000 from the 529 plan to pay off an old student loan. How cool is that? Another thing that you might consider, and a lot of people are doing this as they get closer and closer to retirement, the market is hitting all-time highs. It's a good time to reevaluate your portfolio and how much risk your portfolio is taking. And what we do is we help people come up with a risk score from 0 to 100. The higher the score, the more risk, or the riskier their portfolio. And generally speaking, when people get close to retirement, they kind of want to protect what they have, and they're not going for the home runs anymore or the triples. They're happy with some singles and doubles, so to speak. They're not swinging for the fences. They're wanting just to kind of drive the speed limit and go for a moderate growth if they can. So I would certainly advise you to look at your 401k or whatever retirement account you have set up, or maybe a retirement accounts. See how your portfolio invested, and if it really still suits you being this close to retirement. Another thing you want to look at, with interest rates being this low, it's a great time to be refinancing debt. Maybe it's that home mortgage that you want to get paid off by the time you retire. I always love seeing clients, and I use that word love. I really enjoy seeing clients get that mortgage paid off by the time they retire or before they retire, because essentially they're able to live on less money in retirement. And maybe having your car loans paid off by the time you retire. Again, less money every month going to some bank and more money for your lifestyle, for you to enjoy, live, and give. Right now, with the real estate market being so hot, if you have real estate, maybe it's a second home, or maybe it's a property that you don't really plan to keep for the long term, it might be a good decision to put that on the market now while the market is so hot and at all-time highs. I've had many clients kind of take a look at their property, maybe some real estate that they didn't plan on keeping long term anyway, and go ahead and sell it and get a record high for it. It's always good to go out at the top. On the flip side of that, for other big purchases such as vehicles or boats or recreational vehicles, a lot of people like to purchase those in the years leading up to retirement. And now is just such an awful time. Because if you've talked to anybody in those industries, whether it's in the RV business or maybe in the boat or automobile, talk to a car dealer right now and how tough it is and how high the prices for used vehicles is just because of the chip shortage for the new vehicles. They can't get the cars to the lots, to the dealerships because of the chip shortage. And what does that do? That drives the price of all the used vehicles up. For boats and RVs and campers and trailers and all those kind of things, there is a production. I mean, they can't make them fast enough. So supply and demand. Guess what? There are very few bargains that you're going to find in this time, in this day and age, until we can get the production numbers up and the inventory higher. It's literally going to take 6 months to maybe 18 months is what we've been hearing. And the last thing I'll mention, if you're that baby boomer out there, and I know I'm covering so many different topics, and none of them are more important than the other. They're just various aspects that we all need to consider. But the last thing I wanted to mention was long-term care costs. And a lot of baby boomers see this with their parents and what they're going through and how expensive it is. But you need to have a plan, whether it's private pay, maybe you have a long-term care policy, whatever it is, you need to have a plan because those expenses are just going up year in and year out. And one thing is for certain, we don't want to stick our kids, our adult kids, with those bills, those long-term care bills. We want to make sure that we planned ahead and those bills will be covered when the time comes. You really want to be able to maintain your dignity and really be able to afford the care that you deserve. So that's another whole conversation that baby boomers are having that are getting close to retirement. So I hope this conversation has been helpful today. I know I was all over the board, but different topics and different strategies, hopefully, that I offered. And these should all kind of at least get you thinking and started planning in the right direction of all the things that you need to think of before you retire, and make sure you have all your bases covered. If I can help with any of your questions, anything you're going through, visit my website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. That's retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. At the bottom of the website, submit your question, get your free Yeti tumbler mailed to you just for submitting your question, and I'll give you my best advice on the question, what you're going through, and hopefully point you in the right direction. I'll catch you next time on another episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast, and remember, always dream big. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial advisor prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. The SmartVestor program is a directory of investment professionals. Neither Dave Ramsey nor SmartVestor are affiliates of St. Louis Retirement Advisors or LPL Financial. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.